Peter Joseph and the Zeitgeist movement is a humanist organization that believes that religion, amongst other things, including also the monetary system that we have, is binding people. It's impeding human growth and development. To that point, he comes out with this film with the Zeitgeist. And in that film, he makes some claims that Justin Martyr says that there is an identical relations between Christianity and pagan religions, and that is not what he says. You have to understand, in Judeo-Christian theology, both God and the devils operate on the same supernatural principles. Why? Because if you remember, in Judeo-Christian thought, in Judeo-Christian theology, Satan or Lucifer was originally, they were beings created by God. They were angels. And Jesus also says that if you have faith, you can do not only the miracles that he has done, but even greater ones. So there is an understanding of a supernatural principles that take place that both God and evil demons make use of. Of course, God is superior and can do much more. But let's read what Justin Martyr actually wrote, and we'll understand the analogy that he's using in order to relate Christianity to people who have another belief in their pagan belief. But he creates a bridge when he starts to say, and we say also that the Word, who is the first birth of God, was produced without sexual union. Okay? Now God, or Jesus Christ, who both man and God, was produced by a union between the Holy Spirit and the Virgin Mary. The virgin birth in this case was that the mother, a human being, born without original sin, which made her the Immaculate Conception, gave birth. That's a virgin giving birth. Some would say, as Peter Joseph has said, that Mithra was a virgin birth. But Mithra was born out of rock, and he was a fully clothed adult, or adult God. Now, who is the virgin in that instance? A virgin birth is not like a maiden voyage. A virgin birth is a virgin who gives birth. Even if you want to apply the Gaia principle to Mithra's birth, Gaia, or the earth, was not a virgin. The Gaia principle, she had a mate who was the sky god, who she castrated, and then the sky fell up and the earth fell below. And when she castrated him, then from that union gave birth to the Titans, and then the Titans gave birth to the Greek gods. Okay, so we need to be very clear about what we're talking about when we talk about virgin births. Virgin births refer to virgins giving birth. And he goes on to say, and that he, Jesus Christ, our teacher, was crucified and died and rose again. And you say, well, there's similarities between that and the story of Osiris. That's perfectly fine, but that mythology and that of the Christian religion is very different. You have to understand that in Christianity are, as Pope Benedict XVI has made very clear, events in history. These are actual events that have taken place in history. The death and resurrection of Osiris, which is a little strange, because I don't think Osiris actually became fully animated again. There was bits and parts of his body that was put together in a kind of Frankenstein manner, and his genitals was thrown into the river by Isis, and she gave him a golden phallus, and she got pregnant through this golden phallus. Okay, but those creatures, like or those mythological creatures or beings, like in the Egyptian mythology, where you have a creature who couldn't possibly have really existed amongst mankind, a creature like Anubis with the head of a dog or a jackal and the body of a man, or Thoth with the head of an ibis and the body of a man, those were not real events in time. Neither was the Osiris death and resurrection. They made that very clear. But the birth of Christ was a real event in time. The death of the holy innocents was a real event in time. And when you look at the Bible and you look at the Old Testament, you will see historical figures such as Xerxes, the king of Persia, such as Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, and so on and so forth. So this is events that's taking place, divine events that is taking place in the history of man. So he goes on and he says, our teacher was crucified and died and rose again and ascended into heaven. We propound nothing different from what you believe regarding those whom you esteem sons of Jupiter. Okay? That's nothing different there. That's the analogy that he's making. He's not saying they're the same. And he's not saying that they're completely invalid either. Let's listen to what he says. For you know how many sons your esteemed writers ascribed to Jupiter. Mercury, the interpreting word and teacher of all, which in Egyptian mythology would be more like Thoth. Asclepius, who, though he was a great physician, was struck by a thunderbolt and so ascended to heaven. And in Christianity and Judaism, this term ascended into heaven has two different meanings. One is that they have ascended into heaven, into the sky, and the other is that the Son has gone into the next life, the seventh heaven, and has communicated and is seated at the right hand of the Father. So no one has ascended into heaven except the Son. We have figures such as Elijah, who in the fiery chariot was said to have ascended into heaven. But the difference is that Jesus Christ, the Messiah, who is sacrificed, is the one who has the greater authority. And so we go on the basis of what he teaches, that no one has ascended into heaven. You have to remember, he's the one who has made the sacrifice to cleanse men of their sins. So no one, especially Elijah, was not born without original sin. So there's no way he could have gone directly into heaven. He would have to have been purged. And Bacchus too, who I believe the Greeks have as Dionysus, after he had been torn limb from limb, and Hercules when he had committed himself to the flames to escape his toils, and the sons of Leda and Dioscuri and Perseus, son of Dana, and Bellerophon, who, though sprung from mortals, rose to heaven on the horse Pegasus. For what shall I say of Ariadne, and those who like her have been declared to be set among the stars? So he's here reciting these people who have gone, and according to Roman religious beliefs and mythological beliefs, have gone into, but when they go into the heavens, you know, they either go into they never leave nature. They either go into the sky or they go into the stars. And you have to remember that many of the Romans only saw so far as the stars. That is not Christianity. Christianity exists on a supernatural basis, much as many African religions have, and even Native American religions. There's a recognition of the spiritual. He goes on to say, and what of the emperors who die among yourselves, who are also considered gods, whom you deem worthy of deification, and in whose behalf you produce someone who swears he has seen the burning Caesar rise to heaven from the funeral pyre? Now, some would say, well, don't you have saints, and aren't they deified? No, saints are not deified. They are people who have lived out a heroic virtue, who carry your prayers to the Lord our God. But they are not gods in themselves. But anyway, and you have many a Protestant that will say, hey brother, pray for me. Or if you ask someone to pray for me, to pray for someone just means to bring that petition to that authority